A word from our sponsors. Whether or not Google ever decides to deprecate cookies, they continue to loom over us, putting future revenue growth in doubt. LiveIntent's Hero, Helping Identity Reveal Opportunity, offers a solution by transforming non-addressable audiences into addressable inventory using first-party data. Hero is scalable, interoperable, and integrated with major industry players, providing a robust framework for navigating the post-cookie era. See how Hero can help you quickly unlock your inventory at LiveIntent/Hero. That's LiveIntent/HIRO. Welcome to the AdTechGod Pod, your window into the world of advertising technology and the people behind it. I'm your host, AdTechGod. Welcome to another episode of the AdTechGod Pod, where we meet some of the industry's best product marketers. Today's guest is Alena Morris, the Senior Director of Product Marketing at PubMatic. Alena leads a team of global product marketers overseeing commercialization and go-to-market strategies for some of PubMatic's products, including OpenWrap, Identity Hub, Connect, Activate, Convert, and more. She is a subject matter expert and thought leader in addressability and retail media, and was also an honoree at the 2022 Ad Monsters and Ad Exchanger Top Women in Media and Ad Tech. I'm excited to have her here today. Alena, welcome to the AdTechGod Pod.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. I'm excited to dig into this with you.
Same here. I actually love talking to product marketers. You're not the first. I think you're my third. And usually the guests that come on that work in some sort of marketing capacity, always come with such a great perspective on their companies and the industry. So I'm really looking forward to meeting you today.
Well, fantastic. I hope I live up to that standard and to the reputation that those fantastic product marketers have set before me.
And don't worry, if you don't, we'll just edit it. We'll make it sound great.
Wow, the power of editing.
I start every podcast the same way. I love to hear about how you got into your current role and what led you to this point, to working in ad tech.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been in ad tech and media for pretty much my whole career. I actually got my start selling ads at Yelp way back in the day. So when Yelp was just getting, I guess they were kind of just getting started. That was about maybe 12 years ago or something, selling ads to small business owners, inside sales in San Francisco. So that was an interesting and tough job. I did that for maybe about a year. And then I transitioned over in San Francisco to CBS Interactive. And this is where I really started digging into traditional digital publishing. I was on the CNET side. I was doing a lot of tech coverage. And this is also where, not only did I get into traditional digital publishing, but this is also where I got my start into product marketing. So when I started at CBS Interactive, I almost immediately transitioned into a product marketing role. And so that's where I really started building that skill set. And in this role, I did some really cutting edge stuff, which was cool at the time. This is when we were launching an initiative called Smart Home, which was when all that technology was coming out. So a lot of cool coverage at CES, and bought a house in Louisville, Kentucky, and put all this tech in it and did a huge marketing launch around that. I went out to London for a short stint of time, and I built a product marketing team there and kind of stood up that function. And truthfully, I thought I was going to spend my whole career at CBS Interactive. But right around that time, I spent around 5 years there. Kind of towards the end of my time, we started getting into this little thing called programmatic. We started building out that function within the organization. And when we started building out that part of the business, I just remember that being a really big deal in terms of bringing that to the CBS Interactive business. And how do we balance that with the direct sales team? And what does programmatic ads mean to the user experience? And how do we balance that? And all of these complexities. And I just realized that there was this whole other side of the digital business to learn about that I really had no exposure to. And there was all of this stuff to learn. And so at that point, I was okay, I have spent a good chunk of my career here, 5 years. There's this whole new side of advertising that I know absolutely nothing about. I am a technical person by nature. I've studied economics and math in college. I wanted to go and do something more technical. So that's when I kind of made the transition to the ad tech side of the business. and I went to go work for a DSP. I went over to Quantcast, and I was there for a couple of years, and I was working on some really cool kind of cutting edge technology. So there, I wasn't doing really traditional DSP stuff. I was actually working on building out their ID. They were building out an ID. This is when like cookie deprecation, like we were just starting to talk about cookie deprecation, IDs, like targeting without cookies, like all of that kind of good stuff. I actually was working on a consent management solution because like we were really focused on GDPR in the EMEA market. And I was working on some other like really early stage startup solutions that they had. So that was a really unique experience, I would say, within the DSP lens, because like when people think of a DSP, they're thinking of your traditional buying. But within my experience there, I was working on some of their really early stage technology solutions. So really a unique experience. As time progressed there, I found myself wanting to come back to my publisher roots. So that's when I made the move to PubMatic, which is kind of ironic because I actually spend so much of my time here now on the buy side, which by the way, I totally love, but I just think it's hilarious now that I say that out loud because I thought I was like coming to a purely publisher business, and PubMatic is just so diversified and we're doing so many innovative things. And just a small portion of my time now is spent on that, but I just think that's funny. So anyways, I came to PubMatic. I actually came through the addressability lens. So, as I mentioned at Quantcast, a lot of my experience was focused on that addressability angle, like building IDs, thinking about consent, thinking about the loss of third-party cookies. So when I came into my product marketing role at PubMatic, I came to lead product marketing for identity and audience targeting. So that was 2021, very hot topic at the time. And sort of in the blink of an eye, I've been here for already 3.5 years. And in that time, I've moved more into the buy side. I lead product marketing activity for all of our buy side offerings, which included the expansion into activation. It included the launch of Activate last year. I've moved into retail media, and that also included our launch of Convert also last year. I've recently moved into CTV and video. And so it's been pretty incredible. Like my professional journey at PubMatic specifically has really reflected PubMatic's innovation. So like as PubMatic has grown and innovated, I've also been growing and I've been innovating. As PubMatic is excelling, I'm excelling. As the company is finding new ways of working with buyers and sellers, like I'm finding new ways of working with, engaging, speaking to those audiences as a product marketer.
Well, I mean, I think PubMatic in general has done a really good job at doing that too. Like they've been around for so long, while many others have not. And they've been able to do the right acquisitions and shift their strategies the right way to still be a major player in the market, which I think is great.
Absolutely. Well, that's why I chuckled when I said I made that transition from Quantcast to PubMatic, thinking I was going back to my publisher roots, because PubMatic started as an SSP. PubMatic started originally at its roots as a business that helps publishers make money. And we absolutely still do that. We're thinking about publisher challenges all the time, but we're so much more than that now. And I think that's like, I think that's one of the things that I love about being at this company is that, and why I've, invested so much of my time in my career and like my growth here is that this is a company that's not afraid to like innovate and try new things and solve new problems. And for me, that's something in my career that I care very deeply about, is like constantly learning, constantly being challenged, constantly growing. And so for me and this company, like those two things go hand in hand.
You don't find that at a lot of companies, to be honest. Like there aren't a lot of companies that embrace their employees and their vision for growth. Like I think a lot of companies kind of keep their employees where they're at. So the fact that they're giving you not only an expansion of your role and your responsibility, but allowing you that career growth is also pretty amazing.
Now in my role, I think I've expanded the remit of products. I think that, something else that I've kind of expanded is, and I think about it a lot in terms of like challenges that I've had and like opportunities that I've had in my career too, is like as a manager and a leader. I think that leadership here has like empowered and entrusted a lot in me and others. And like I appreciate and I try to emulate that in like my own leadership and management style too, is like I grow and evolve in this company. Like I think leadership here does a really good job of both empowering innovation, but like empowering people here to like grow and learn and do the things that they need to do.
I mean, you guys have Kyle. Like, is he not one of like the most liked people in the industry at this point? Like, if there was an award, if there was like an Ad Exchanger award for like the most likable, I think he's probably up there in like the top 5. So I think it starts at the top. Like, you guys have a fantastic leadership team, not just Kyle, but of course also your founders and CEO. And it's creating that environment for your employees to thrive. But beyond just even career stuff, like the acquisition of Martin, your SPO initiatives, your new onboarding of this big CTV team that you brought, I think you brought Abby over, you brought, I think, Reggie over. So you're building out this fantastic team that is knowledgeable in the CTV space. It shows that you guys are willing to adapt and shift to market trends and try to capture, market share.
I think it's as much about what you build and like, what you're building in partnership with your customers. It's as much about that as it is about like the people that you have like around you and that you're working with. You mentioned Kyle and Abby and Reggie, and like we have so many talented and smart people across this company. And that's another thing that like I feel like all of these things that I mentioned, like launching Activate, launching Convert, like growing in my career, like I couldn't have done that without all of the incredible people across the company. So I think, to your point, that's a huge benefit of this company. And that's a huge thing that has helped propel me in my career as well.
How do you feel in general, your experience working on, the publisher side and now kind of on the buy side and sell side, kind of flipping between the two in your career, has helped you like better understand how to position the products when you go to market and how to package them the right way and obviously commercialize these, once, I guess, vision into an actual tangible product that the market wants?
So I think what it does is it's given me a better contextual picture of what's going on as a whole in the market. Meaning like if we're doing something over here in the retail media space, like what does that mean over here for what we're doing with Activate? Or like what does that mean over here for what's going on in the buy side space? So like I might not be best suited to speak to like the nuance of what's going on deeply like in Convert or in Activate. Like that's why it's great that I have such a strong team around me. But like it's more now about the context of like across the business, like where do we see parallels of where does this make sense over on this side? Where does this make sense over on this side? Like how can we bring these things together to make a story that makes more sense, that has more synergy, that like we're bringing things closer together, where things are not happening in a silo, but it's like, it's one PubMatic story. It's one PubMatic solution that we're bringing to market in one story that makes sense.
And I think even just tying things in together, you had, mentioned, addressability was what you came over for, creating an ID, and now you're primarily focused on retail media, right?
Yeah, more or less.
And with that comes like, how do you see the recent news with Google, keeping the cookie and giving the consumer choice? How do you see that improving or impacting, your strategy moving forward? Do you see this as kind of a non-changer for your overall data strategy?
It's a great question. I think there's a lot of experts across our business who are thinking about this in a lot of detail. I don't know how it's going to impact what we're thinking about. I think we're still waiting to see how publishers and buyers are going to react in terms of their strategy. What I can tell you is that, over the past couple of years, we've seen publishers and buyers adopt a lot of different addressability strategies. And I think that will continue to be the case, maybe not as aggressively because, maybe there's not something to prepare for within Google. But I think, what we've seen over the past couple of years is that there's other effective ways to target outside of third-party cookies. And now maybe in addition still to third-party cookies. So, I don't know what's going to happen with Google. Let's see. And I will leave it up to those who are much smarter than me in this topic to figure that out.
I think you nailed it. I mean, that's my personal opinion. I think, a lot of the existing ID solutions in market utilize cookies to some capacity. So are they fully independent? Not really. Can we utilize retail media data to help enhance them? Absolutely. Are there ways for us to target in a more privacy compliant way. Like, yes, the industry is prepared for that. I think I just ran a poll a few weeks ago, asking people if they were prepared. And it was a pretty significant sized number of people saying that they think that they're ready, even if cookies were gone, that there's solutions in market that could help them, appease their advertisers and brands. So, I mean, I think generally this doesn't change the direction of our industry at all. I actually think it gives us a little bit of time, and then also kind of addresses the privacy concerns that, regulation has and what consumers have.
Yeah. What I'm interested to see what will happen regardless of whatever is going to go on with Google is that, retail media is such a big deal and retailers sit on so much first party data. And that's something that we are really leaning into and others are across the industry as well. But regardless of what's going on with third party cookies in Google, that data set, and by that data set, I mean first party data sets that retailers are bringing to the table now, like that's going to be a new set of data that's available regardless of what's going on with third party cookies. So that's still going to be at play here. And that's going to be an effective targeting mechanism that advertisers are going to be, I think, still interested in leveraging. So I think that is going to be something new and effective that is going to be kind of an interesting component. I think something that we're really interested in seeing what happens is the convergence of this new first party data set with CTV inventory. So that's something that we're looking into with the likes of Instacart. And we have a couple CTV partners of testing out where does this first party data, which is inherently privacy safe and effective, where does that intersect with CTV inventory? How does that drive performance for advertisers? What does that next wave of audience addressability and performance look like?
I'm going to give you my opinion. Not that I'm anyone that's really impactful can change it. I think it's a good strategy. I think the audience targeting across CTV is great. Obviously, we're seeing huge shifts in, advertising spend from linear to streaming, and it's only going to continue to grow. So being able to create those IDs and audience solutions is a great strategy. If you can piece it all together with retail media, data, first party data, I think the market has an appetite for that generally. And that's just my opinion. But again, others may agree or disagree. You've been working in the industry a lot from, obviously spending time at CBS, working closely at Quantcast, moving into PubMatic. What direction do you see the industry moving in generally? What trends outside of, I guess, retail media is something that really sparks your interest?
Yeah. I'm going to touch on two things that I think are just top of mind for me in the day to day. And then I'm going to touch on one thing that I think might be kind of left field that I just have been thinking about recently. So I think in my day to day, I'm looking a lot on the buy side and, we launched Activate last year and we're looking across PubMatic specifically, how do we think about the programmatic supply chain of the future and bringing buyers and sellers closer together. And so I'm thinking a lot about what does consolidation across the industry look like? How do we make that path shorter between buyers and sellers? Not in the sense of getting rid of partners, but just making it more effective for buyers and sellers so that publishers are ultimately making more money and so that advertisers are ultimately driving the most performance with their ad budgets. So I think that's what we're seeing with the launch of Activate. I think that's what we're seeing with, the launch of Clearline and other kind of platforms moving in that direction. So I think in general, Rajiv sometimes refers to that of the third phase of programmatic, which I really think that's a smart way to coin it. But I view that kind of as the direction that we're heading in. So that's one. I think in general, just tied to, everything we've been talking about around data and third-party cookies. And I think just higher standards around data usage and continuing in high standards around privacy standards and data usage. I think we're going to continue to see kind of the bar rise on consumer expectations there, but also business expectations in terms of what people can do with data, how they can house it, how they can use it, all of that kind of stuff. So I think that will continue to be top of mind. I think that scrutiny of Google is higher than ever. And I'm not sure what's going to happen with everything going on with Chrome, but more to come there. Then the third one that is kind of out of left field. So I was just recently at this conference in Hollywood. I was there in June with this group called the Hollywood Innovation and Tech Society. I was there because I was talking on a panel about ad tech in Hollywood. They run this conference every year, but this was the first time that they had brought an ad tech panel to this conference. And this conference is Hollywood, like traditional Hollywood content producers and like tech people, like producers, IT professionals from your types of Hollywood companies like Lionsgate, Sony, Paramount, like Amazon Studios, companies like that. I say that because I just thought it was interesting. Like, I feel that, like, obviously CTV, you have a lot of this traditional linear content coming into streaming, but this is the first time that I have seen like really a traditional Hollywood body bringing in an ad tech company into one of their, or the first time I've experienced into one of their kind of like in-town society meetings, conferences type of meetups. So like, I kind of feel like maybe Hollywood and ad tech and content creation, traditional content creation, they're going to become maybe more entwined than ever. In fact, they were even talking about ad tech. Like, they said the words more than a couple times and people were like, what's ad tech? Like, what's going on here? We were talking about the trade desk, and like it was kind of like a buzzword within this conference. So that was kind of a new experience for me. And so I don't know, that just kind of got me thinking, like, this is coming closer and closer together. This is like a new opportunity for ad tech. I mean, obviously we're in there already with CTV, but we're just kind of on the edges. And so I don't know, I'm really curious to see what's going to happen there.
I mean, that's really interesting for you to bring that up, because I don't think it's something I've thought about before, but obviously the traditional TV companies, broadcasters were really the ones that were tied in with the content. And now with so many great streaming solutions, even though some have been acquired by those companies, are getting closer to the content, the premium content, like the studio created content. So knowing that there's those conversations happening shows you just how much potential there is for growth in streaming that we've only really just begun. Like, Netflix obviously is a standalone, right? Not owned by any parent company, not owned by a major, Comcast or NBC or anyone else, right? Or Fox. And you think about kind of the market growth that they've seen as a standalone company. It's pretty impressive. I think Hollywood is catching on that this is the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, like, I think it will take time, because it's not like that audience wasn't necessarily totally open to ads. Like, there's still kind of an aversion to this idea of ad insertion. So I think it's not like it's something that would happen overnight, but I just think little by little. I mean, I know that there's talks, this group wants to come out to New York maybe later this year. I think there's momentum. So I'm curious. I'm excited. I think there's an opportunity there. So, let's see.
Awesome. You've been working in the industry for a long time. You obviously are passionate about it. I can tell that you like it. What do you think has been the nicest thing anyone has ever done for you to kind of reach where you're at today?
Honestly, I think for me, it has been about the people that I have had in my life throughout each of my roles and throughout each of my companies who have been advocates of mine. I'm not going to say this quote in the right way, but it's like those people who will speak up for you and represent for you in the rooms where you're not. And having those people in my life provided a lot of opportunities for me, but has also given me like a lot of confidence that that I have a network of support of people that I can either speak to about if I need help or if I just need, whatever, if I need anything, but also who will like point out to me like, Alena, there's an opportunity over here that I think would be great for you. Or like, Alena, this is something you should learn about, whatever it might be. Like, I think that those types of people have been some of the best people in my career for me. And the reason why I think that that's nice is because it's not common for people to go out of their way to think about others, I think, just in life in general. And so I'm just very thankful for those people in my life and in my network and throughout my career. And yeah, I think like those are good people.
I do think there's a strong community presence in our industry. Like, I think I've realized it more since I created this, I don't know, alter ego. I don't know what this is, but since I created this, like I've noticed that more people want to help each other than I had ever thought. And maybe because I wasn't so ingrained, like this is now my life, like 24 hours a day, like posting, tweeting, and trying to make jokes, and then also sharing content like all the time. And I think I realized that I get allotted messages on Slack, or I get messages in my DMs. Can you help? Or there's this role open, or what do you recommend I do? And I've realized over the last couple of years just how strong the community is. And, I think this plays a role in why there's so much fun in our industry, even though it's like really high pressure. I know that it's constantly changing. If you go on vacation for a week, like the whole industry's changed. But like there is a general tight-knit community for people that work in the industry, which I think is great.
No, I totally agree with that. And the thing about ad tech is throughout my career, I'm still in touch with people from CBS. In fact, I just was talking to somebody from CBS a couple of days ago about a role at PubMatic. So like it's a very close community. It's a very close-knit industry. And I think like that works to our advantage. Like you meet people, people, like you build your network, like you build your group of people that you can rely on, that you can trust, that you can ask for advice. And I think that that's amazing. Like I have friends in other industries, and some other industries, I'm sure this is true anywhere, like it can just be cutthroat. But like I feel like in ad tech, because, to your point, it's moving so fast, there's so many things to learn. Like we all need to rely like on each other to kind of keep up to speed and to keep things moving. And that's pretty cool.
And knowing how important your network is there any advice that you give to people that are, early on in their career, a few years, whether they're just starting now or they're just a few years in, they're a little bit more junior? What advice would you give to them?
Well, I'll give you like a really specific example. For more junior folks on my team, I try to encourage us all to go to at least one networking event every quarter. I know it sounds silly, but like I feel like that's kind of the best way to, I know it feels awkward at first, but you got to just go and put yourself out there and meet people. Like, of course, get to know your coworkers and your colleagues within your company. I didn't take advantage of that as much like early in my career, and I should have. So I share that lesson, and I share that with anybody listening. Like, I think that's super important. And now, like with folks on my team, I'm like, let's just go. Like, there's a lot of great networking groups here in New York. I'm sure there are in other cities across the US and even globally, but like take advantage of those groups. Like those are other people who want to meet great people. So yeah, I think that's a great way to meet people.
I love that. That actually brings us to the end of the podcast. I wanted to thank you and the team at PubMatic for having you here. I really appreciate you setting aside some time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the AdTechGod Pod, a podcast for the people, about the people that make AdTech great. Stay connected with me for more insights, trends, and interviews in the realm of AdTech. Don't miss out on our latest updates, so follow me on X, Instagram, and connect with me on LinkedIn. Don't forget, ATG Slack community has insights, networking opportunities, and jobs. Keep the conversation going and stay at the forefront of AdTech innovation.